Well, joining me now to debate Europe's fight against extremism is Adam Dean, Head of Outreach at the counter-extremism think tank, the Quilliam Foundation, and Roshan Mohammed Saleh, editor of the online magazine 5 Pillars UK. Of course, we'll be focusing quite specifically on the UK, but we'll broaden it out a little bit in bits and pieces. Gentlemen, we are tight for time, so apologies in advance if I have to interrupt you. Let me start with you, Roshan. This strategy by the government, along with the Muslims who help the government to combat extremism, is it helpful or harmful?
No, I don't think anyone would have a problem if the British government went after terrorists and those who are directly inciting violence and supporting terrorism, but they're not doing that. They're casting that so wide that they're effectively going after social conservatives, people who believe in normative Islamic concepts such as opposition to homosexuality or a vague idea of an Islamic state, and those who are political dissidents as well, people who oppose Israel and support Palestinian rights. So the government is casting its net far too wide, and they're not just going after terrorists. I should also take a bit of an issue at your opening, VT, because I don't think people in Britain, London, where I live, are fearing for their lives every day. I think they're quite relaxed. I personally think that the terrorism issue is overblown. It's not the major threat it's being portrayed to be. It might be in Paris, but certainly not in the UK. And a whole massive terrorism industry is growing up, where people are making a lot of money out of this industry.
Okay.
And that's why it's perpetuating itself.
Before I go to Adam, is Adam somebody who's a part of this terrorism industry?
Well, your guest said that the terrorist threat is overblown. Perhaps Roshan's unaware that there's been a number of terrorist attacks that have been thwarted by the intelligence services and the police department. So that's probably why he perceives it to be overblown, but I can assure you it's not. Only last month, two young men were convicted of plotting to almost ISIS-like terrorist acts. One of them was actually a chairman of an Islamic society at King's College. And let's not sort of forget that we have had 7/7. And Lee Rigby was murdered on the streets of London. So the idea that it's overblown is kind of ludicrous. Roshan also made some points about the government cracking down on social social conservatism, which is a load of garbage. And the government is working very hard to safeguard young people from extremist ideas that can lend themselves to violence, and none of that has got to do with social conservatism.
Adam, let me put something to you from... sorry to interrupt you. Let me put something to you from Dal Babu, who's the former chief superintendent for Metropolitan Police. He said the government prevent strategy was divisive and a tool for spying on the community, and that it did more harm than good. So this is sort of jumping out of the issue as to whether, terrorism is a major threat or not, but he's saying that the prevent strategy is not working and it's making Muslims suspicious of each other. It's causing problems. What do you think, Adam?
Well, this comment about spying, I mean, there was a report done by the government on the prevent strategy in 2011, and there was no evidence, zero evidence of anyone actually spying on Muslims. These kind of terms are bandied around by the likes of sort of Roshan, for example, who like to incite this kind of sense of fear and this kind of loathing of British society. And they, unfortunately, present misinformation about the prevent strategy, that it's somehow a war against Muslims and Islam, which it's completely irresponsible. Because what it does, it unwittingly serves the agenda of the extremists, that somehow some idea that the British government are at war with Islam, and it's completely irresponsible.
Okay.
I myself have actually trained, if I may finish,
sure.
I've trained dozens of teachers on the prevent strategy, and in the beginning there's a sense of feeling anxious about it, but afterwards there's relief, and I teach them not to conflate social conservatism with extremism, and this is one of the things that I teach them. And where the government is failing, I would say, is not in the strategy itself, but there is a training gap, that there needs to be more education in terms of identifying extremism.
Okay, Roshan, here you have a guy, Adam, who's Muslim, who wants to solve the problem within the community. You guys disagree on the extent of the problem. But I mean, why do you consider the Quilliam Foundation a problem? Why do you consider what Adam's doing to be wrong?
Well, Adam, given that Adam is getting personal, I think I should get personal back. Adam has no credibility to talk about this issue. I don't see what his credentials to talk about Islamic law or certain aspects of Islam are. I don't know what his counter-terrorism credentials are. The Quilliam Foundation is perceived as, if I may use the expression, Uncle Tom's within the Muslim community. They have absolutely no credibility whatsoever. They serve as an echo chamber for government policy. They're great at demonizing Muslims in the right-wing media. They have no credibility and no ability to gain traction with those elements within the Muslim community who may be prone to radicalization. The only people that can do that are the so-called non-violent extremists that the government is currently targeting. And that's my basic point, is that the government should be working with grassroots people within the Muslim community who have credibility within that community, who haven't sold out their faith, who don't try to deflect attention away from the egregious effects of British foreign policy, state Islamophobia embodied through the PREVENT strategy, media Islamophobia, and focus entirely on social conservatism and political dissent within the Muslim community itself. This is a weak community in this country. It is on its knees on every single social economic indicator. It is not powerful. Yet Adam Dean chooses to pick on the weak and side with the strong.
Okay, let's get Adam's response. Adam?
Wow, I mean, where does one begin? He spoke about, me not having any kind of credentials. Well, I'd like to ask what sort of credentials that Roshan has. I mean, he often brings up in interviews about
I go to Islamic events. I never see you.
Sorry, sorry. If you could just not interrupt, Roshan. Roshan, if you
do you ever go to a mosque?
I've
never seen you at a mosque.
Have a discussion.
You're not even present in the Muslim community.
Maybe. Oh, so is that a tacit claim that I'm
not
a Muslim here?
Why is your institution funded? I never said that, but
Roshan,
why is the Quilliam Foundation hanging around with Islamophobes? Why are you funded by right-wing associations in America?
Roshan, give the man a chance. Adam, go ahead.
This is a typical tactic. They can't deal with the arguments that we put out. They shy away from debate, and all they do is throw ad hominems, and it's the usual rhetoric. Well, exactly, you don't have any arguments, Roshan. I mean, Roshan speaks about theology and normative Islam. I mean, I've been labelled by one of his colleagues at 5 Bollards, or whatever it's called, 5 Pillars, of being an anti-Muslim.
You know exactly what it's called.
Sorry, excuse me. If I may finish, Roshan. I've been labelled an Islam hater simply because I questioned apostasy killing on the BBC. I mean, this is the level of debate, this is the kind of juvenile knowledge these individuals have. And they have very big mouths, and they have no grassroots presence whatsoever. They just have the means to talk really loudly. And
well, we're not
in terms
funded
of
by
foreign policy,
by the government.
Roshan,
okay, so
Roshan, yes, but
so hold on.
if I could just finish, if I may just finish, Roshan. If I may just finish. And Roshan explained and brought up, foreign policy. Well, maybe Roshan can enlighten all of us here, all of you and us here, that how is it that foreign policy is responsible for the beheading of Alan Henning, an aid worker at the hands of Jihadi John? How is foreign policy responsible for the enslavement of Yazidi women as sex slaves? How is foreign policy responsible? ISIS throwing homosexuals off tall buildings.
Okay, and let's get a response.
What Roshan does not want us to acknowledge is that there is a pernicious ideology at hand here.
Okay, so let me take that and pose it to Roshan and add, what did the Belgians do to deserve being blown up in a recent terror attack? How is foreign policy responsible for it? Are we maybe in denial of a problem within Islam that needs to be reformed by Muslims? Roshan.
A major denial.
The Belgians and the French and the British civilians who were killed in those terrorist attacks did absolutely nothing in answer to your question. Look, I think we have to... I'm going to put aside the personal stuff with Adam Dean. I can't be bothered addressing him anymore. We need to have a grown-up debate about what causes radicalization. I think there are 4 factors. One is British foreign policy, okay? It has radicalized a generation of Muslims and even non-Muslims in this country who marched against the Iraq war. And we're still seeing the effects of that. The second thing is state Islamophobia as embodied through the PREVENT strategy. The third thing is Media Islamophobia, Muslims are kind of open season in the media every day. The media needs to be regulated. This is causing massive alienation within Muslim communities, which I am a part of and which Adam Dean doesn't bother to get involved with.
Okay.
That is why
I'm
Muslims
not part
are
of the
just a
Muslim
final
community, I
point.
guess.
And
Sure, make the
ideology is... The final point, really quickly, is ideology is a problem. I'm worried about the spread of extremist ideology as well. And I think it does have a part to play in this debate.
Roshan?
However, it's only one part, and the government needs to address the whole thing holistically, and it needs to work with partners within the Muslim community who have credibility and who can solve this problem, not with people like Adam Dean and Quilliam Foundation, who have in the past got money from the government, who are now funded by right-wing conservatives and Islamophobes in the US, who have no ability to stop the bombs going off.
Okay, Roshan, let me ask you, just to clarify a point, you don't agree that Adam's a Muslim hater just for saying that apostasy killings are wrong, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay, cool. Let me move on.
I don't.
Oh, so maybe
Adam,
I'd get an apology from your organisation.
Adam,
then.
let me ask you, okay, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. Let me ask you then about a case of someone like Anjem Choudary, because he fascinates me. People like Anjem Choudary fascinate me in the UK. Someone who professes a hatred for democracy, supports a caliphate, supports Daesh in many ways, considers civilians in the West as open season. Yet when people want to do something about someone like Anjem Choudary, he cries habeas corpus, he cries freedom of speech, all the protections of being a citizen in a secular liberal democracy. How do you deal with a riddle like that, Adam?
Well, in dealing with our enemies, we shouldn't become like our enemies. We have to uphold our liberal values and freedom of speech. But believe it or not, the likes of Anjem Choudary are not a problem. In a sense that what I mean by that is that Anjem Choudary, we know what he is about. We know what he stands for. He's an overt extremist. But what it does exist, there are elements within the Muslim community that hold on to this kind of pernicious, intolerant reading of Islam, that where we have organizations like Roshan's 5 Pillars that actually are defending these individuals and also will never criticize them. And all that they do is criticize individuals like myself and the Quilliam Foundation and many others, but want to address these problems and want to actually hold these people accountable for their ideas. I can tell you now that the 5 Pillars organisation is known for allying with
Adam,
the likes of Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad,
give me a name of someone that they defend.
that apostates should be killed.
Okay, give me a name of someone.
Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad, for example. Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad, and I use that term loosely as the term sheikh.
He's got nothing to do with 5 Pillars.
Is known in the UK. Is known in the UK for visiting university. We know that you ally with them. Don't play games. You're echo chamber for Islamism, and everybody knows it.
I'm not.
You're not objective in any shape or form.
We cover the entire Muslim community.
Well, absolutely. No.
Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad
people like Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad.
Okay, so Adam, you consider Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad a problem, and Roshan, you do not.
As someone who's an extremist, who's someone believes that. Okay, so let's ask a question to Roshan. Do you think that Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad is an extremist for believing in apostasy killing? Do you think he's an extremist?
I have no doubt. I have no idea what he believes. You're not my judge and jury. I'm not an Islamic scholar.
No.
I'm not going to comment on fiqh.
Do you see how he sidesteps the question?
Do you see? Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad. Well, I'll answer the question.
Let the man answer the question. Yeah.
Then I'll answer the question. Yeah, let me answer the
Go
question.
ahead,
I didn't interrupt you. Well, I did a bit, actually. But anyway, look, Anjem Choudary, I think, personally, was someone who helped demonize the Muslim community.
Haytham al-Haddad.
Adam, stop interrupting the man. Let him
Don't sidestep the question, Roshan.
Will you stop interrupting? I'll answer the question how I want to answer it. You are not my judge and jury. Okay, simple
By not
as
answering
that.
it.
Anjem Choudary, as I was saying, was someone. I will answer it if you keep quiet.
Okay, come on, Roshan.
Anjem Choudary is someone who helped to demonize Muslims, and he was allowed to do that for many years, and it's very suspicious why. He's going to go under trial, I think, next month or the month after. Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad, I don't know much about the guy. He holds some conservative views, which I don't particularly agree with myself.
Conservative.
And I don't even know why I'm talking about him, because I think I met him once in my life. We write about him sometimes on 5 Pillars because he is a prominent member of the Muslim community.
Your organisation defends him all the time.
And that's it, really.
Okay. I think
My organisation defends
Well,
it.
I think I'm going to wrap
you
at
didn't
that
answer the
point.
question.
Adam and Roshan, we are out of
Didn't
time.
answer the question.
Unfortunately, I'd love to continue this discussion, but I've got to wrap and move on. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.